tell you what, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you what.
Hey, how's it going? Welcome to Tell You What, the podcast. We talk with musicians about songwriting, the creative process, and whatever else the cat drags in. Our guest for this episode is New Zealand musician Mel Parsons. Mel released an excellent album in 2024, Sabotage, which reached number 2 on the New Zealand charts, and she spent the month of February on tour with the legendary band Crowded House. I sat down with Mel last month at the Fok Alliance International Conference in Montreal. The conference hotel was filled with several thousand musicians and industry folks from all over the world. There was great music coming out of hotel rooms and hallways and conference rooms and elevators at all hours of the day and night. I had a great time up there in Canada, our neighbor and the great sovereign nation to the north. Mel hails from the South Island of New Zealand. I had the good fortune to spend a couple of weeks there adventuring last year. I have 2 things to report from my travels. First, New Zealand is one of the most visually stunning places I have ever been. Endless vistas of mountains, lakes, oceans, waterfalls, one view more astounding than the next. They have amazing national parks that they steward very carefully and wisely. Secondly, the people of New Zealand could not have been more lovely, friendly and welcoming at every turn. And our guest Mel Parsons proved no exception. She was a delight to talk with. Mel is also a talented musician and songwriter. I was able to take in a couple of her sets during the folk conference, and not only does she write excellent songs, but she delivers them with energy and a commitment to the song and her audience. So do check out Mel Parsons' most recent record, Sabotage. In fact, she has a number of great albums that are worth your time. But for now, enjoy this Tell You What discussion with Mel Parsons.
You might find that I'm really boring and then there's nothing to talk about.
Close the whole thing down in 5 minutes.
Totally. Totally.
All right. Welcome, Mel Parsons, to Tell You What, the podcast. We are sitting down together in person in Montreal, Canada in February. What better place to be in the middle of February than in Montreal?
That's right.
It is summer where you are in your home.
Yeah. I flew out of like 25 degrees and what is it? Minus is like minus 16 or minus 18 or something.
Yes. That sounds like a lot. I don't know about the Celsius, but I take your word for it.
Hot to cold.
Yes, hot to cold. We are here at the Fok Alliance International Conference, along with a couple thousand other musicians, industry people wandering the halls of the Sheraton at all hours of the night. You've done this before. We were just talking about this before we hit record. How's it going for you here? Have you felt that these gatherings have been helpful in the past, or at least fun?
Yeah, I have. I think this is my 4th or 5th, actually. Honestly, they start to blend in a little. It's definitely changed over the course of my career and the time that I've been coming here. I think in the early days it was very, sort of eager and hustly and kind of, got to kind of tickle the things and do everything. And now I've kind of realized that the thing that I always take away that comes back to me the strongest and that kind of fills me up the most is actually just the people. I mean, it sounds so cliche when I hear that come out of my mouth, but reconnecting with friends and I mean, it's probably the same in any industry, really. Just the most important thing is the people and the actual connections you make with them, rather than the, how many posters you can, get down the hallway kind of a thing,
Well, I imagine it is rare to have time in one place with other artists. You usually like passing.
It truly
you might
is.
see them for an hour somewhere, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like, back home at least, the time that I'm most, see my musical friends most is honestly in the airport. We're always just like ships in the night. We're like, have a great tour.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very unique, and pretty special thing. We're all here on the same kind of shared buzz, and it's, yeah, it's very cool to be a part of it. I think, of course, there's a business aspect of it, and you have to be at least semi-prepared, or you got to know why you're here, kind of thing. But also, I think you have to have expectations kind of in line with reality. I think is a good is a good way to kind of keep your sanity.
Yes. You're not going to become a star here? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm sort of lucky. I feel like what I do is, it's not pop, it's not super in fashion, it's not going to go kind of bananas overnight. And so I don't think I'm at risk of becoming a huge star, but I feel like...
Well, you can be a star of Fok Alliance. I think that you probably already qualify for that.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. True. But no, I think that it's, if you're not super in fashion, then you're not going to fall out of fashion, which has kind of been a little bit of not my motto, but like my, just the trajectory of my career. I feel like it's just been a slow build, but I feel like the good thing about that is I feel like my fans and my audience are really kind of quality, like they're with me and they've kind of stuck with me, and I slowly gather more as I go. And
a slow burn, you might say.
A slow burn, touche. I love
Name
it.
of one of your previous records, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, let's talk some more about you, Mel.
Yeah.
You were born and raised in New Zealand on the southern island, right?
Correct.
The less populated
That's
of
right.
the two.
Yeah.
Westport? Mm-hmm. Kind of a small town by our American standards.
Tiny, yeah.
Did it feel that way to you when you were growing up?
Yeah, it did. I knew that, like I grew up on a farm, so outside of a small town, pretty remote, as far as New Zealand goes, and I always knew, like as a kid, I loved it. I had a great, charmed childhood, riding horses on the beach, and a great time. But I just remember thinking through my whole childhood that I knew, like I was excited to get into the world, like I knew that I wouldn't stay, kind of a thing. Yeah. So
music interested you from your early days?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I don't come from a musical family, but my I had piano lessons from when I was quite young, and kind of carried that through, but from a young age, playing or listening to music always gave me a special feeling as a kid, and so I don't know, I guess I just had the thing from when I was quite small. I'm not saying I was very good when I was young, but it gave me it just gave me a feeling that I enjoyed. Yeah. Yeah.
So piano was your first instrument.
Yeah.
Eventually you picked up the guitar.
Yeah.
When was that?
When I was kind of early teens, I think when I was about 14, I found it, and then I became absolutely obsessed with it,
With the guitar.
I was just, the bedroom bandit kind of a thing, sometimes I think I was probably a better guitar player when I was 16 than I am now, like I was just so, really obsessed with it. But I was very shy, like I didn't, I would never play to anyone, and I would sing in my bedroom, and that was the extent of it. Like I didn't sing in public until I was maybe, I don't know, 17 or something like that. And yeah.
Do you remember the first time?
I do. I used to work at a restaurant, washing dishes, like a kitchen hand, and my boss there gave me my first gig, and she paid me $50, and I couldn't believe it. Yeah. I just was just like, what? $50? How is this?
How many dishes would you have had to wash
totally,
for that? Yeah.
Exactly. And just like, I played for probably like 4 hours or something ridiculous, but yeah, I remember that, and I was like, wow, people do this. This is cool, Do
you think that was the first time you thought people do this for a living, and maybe I could do this?
Probably. Yeah. I don't think I really thought that I was any good, but I did. There was and I've spoken about this previously, and because it was such a sort of a seemingly kind of benign, but also pinnacle kind of a moment for me was when I was sitting around probably around that time, I think I was about 18. I was sitting around a campfire with a bunch of my sister's friends, and because I never went anywhere without my guitar, at that time, and I was playing and singing, and I overheard someone from across the fire say to someone else, wow, that's the voice. And, she could be a professional. And I don't know, just hearing someone else say that in a conversation that I wasn't a part of was like, I just had this real penny drop, and I was like, oh, could I? It was,
That's great that has stuck with you.
It really has stuck with me, and it was pretty impactful at the time. And I think, it's crazy how that, I don't know. How
let me
works.
say, you said your first time performing in public was that $50 gig, and you played for 4 hours.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of songs to play, having never performed before.
So, well, I was learning, I probably played 10 Tracy Chapman songs and a bunch of Counting Crows and,
Still, that's a pretty big set for someone for their first gig.
Yeah.
So what about songwriting? When do you think that started?
I was probably songwriting from pretty early on, and luckily for me that was before social media, so none of it was recorded because I think it was I'm certain it was terrible. I think once I put the voice and the guitar together, I was probably writing songs from that time.
And you went to university to study music. Do I have that right?
I did, yeah. I did, kind of strangely enough. I always kind of imagined that I would do something proper at university,
I consider that proper. I think our audience considers that proper also.
I just assumed that I would, I don't know, go to law school or do something, that proper adult humans do. But I applied straight out of high school. I applied for a music school, and I was sure that I wouldn't get in, and then I did get in, and I kind of, I don't know, I guess that just kicked me off. I had a year there, and then I carried on. I switched to a couple of different schools and finished off at university. Yeah.
So formal music training?
Yeah. My degree is, it's a Bachelor of Music and majoring in pop performance or something. It's very convoluted. Anyway. Yeah.
But it was worthwhile.
Yes, it was worthwhile, but I feel like worthwhile in a different way than you would kind of imagine, I think. For me, I sort of have a bit of a conflicted relationship with the study of music for what I do and the style that I play. I'm not classically trained. I don't read music. And teaching songwriting, I'm still not sure about it. I feel like once you break songs down once you break a song right down to the bones, it's like and then analyze it. I mean, I realize there's a place for that, but I feel like you just strip the magic out of it. Yeah. And I still don't know how or why a good song connects with people. Yes. I do not know what that, you would think that I would, but
if we knew the answer to that question, I wouldn't have a podcast because there are as many answers to that question as there are songwriters.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's, I don't know, it's like the secret sauce, Yes. And I think that's like our part of the thing, I guess, why you keep writing songs, because you're kind of searching for the, you're kind of digging for something that will connect, a line that'll connect with someone, or that will, so to that end, I think that's why I think the formal study, did I need to do a music degree for what I do for my career? Probably not.
Right.
But, you can't take away those experiences, and I wouldn't, and
still a good starting point.
Totally. And somehow it kind of, it legitimizes it to your family, when they think that you're crazy. Yeah.
So you lived in Lyttleton for a while, or you live there now?
Yeah.
Can we talk about Lyttleton? I've been there.
Oh, cool.
There are a number of musicians and artists who have called Lyttleton home, some that I even know, Marlon Williams, Aldous Harding, right?
Yes, correct.
Like I said, I've been there, population about 3,000.
Yes.
Lovely, but very small city by the standards of other artistic centers. What do you think it is about Lyttleton that has attracted this artistic community?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you're quite right. Like, it's so cliche in New Zealand. It's like, songwriter, where are you based? Lyttleton. Of course you are.
Yeah.
There's definitely a real density of us, creatives in Lyttleton. I mean, for me personally, I'm very drawn to being near the water,
right?
And everywhere, and as you know, having been there, everywhere you can basically see the ocean from wherever you are in the town, and most people's houses, even the little rundown little cottages and shacks and stuff, can see the ocean. You know, so I think for me that
it's kind of built on a hill that runs up from the harbor there.
Yeah, exactly. So and it's kind of a it is its own town, but it's only, you just drive through the tunnel 10 minutes and you're in a major city. So it's sort of, we get the best of both worlds. Like I can get in my car and in 15 minutes I can be at the Christchurch Town Hall seeing an international act, Right. So it's sort of, we make out like it's this little
hidden away
kind of remote enclave, but actually, but I don't know. I think it's very casual, and the community's great. You can kind of dip in or out. You can be as sort of involved or not as you want.
Yeah.
And it's literally, you see Marlon in the supermarket or, there are a lot of us there.
Can we talk about the Lyttleton time ball?
Yeah, we can.
This is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I went to Lyttleton visiting, and I see a sign that says Lyttleton time ball with an arrow.
Yeah.
And who could resist following that sign?
Yeah.
And we walked out there, and you want to tell us about the time ball?
Well, embarrassingly enough, I haven't been to the time ball for many, many years, and my retention of that kind of information is
all right,
not
I'm
great.
now going to tell about the
Please
Lyttleton
tell
time
me.
ball.
Yeah.
Just outside town. It's like a lighthouse kind of structure, right? Above the harbor, and at the top is a large red ball with kind of like a mast sticking up. And at some point in the past, the ships in the harbor needed to know the exact time of day it was because of longitude or something that helped them navigate.
That
right?
sounds right.
Yes. So at 1 o'clock or some particular time every day, a telegram would come in from Greenwich there were a lot of these all over the world. At one point, Lyttleton is one of the few that is still there. That's why it's interesting. And at 1 o'clock, exactly when the telegram came in, the guy would drop the time ball down its mast so that the ships in the harbor knew it was exactly 1 o'clock and they could set their clocks, which I guess didn't keep very good time for very long. So then when they went out in the sea, the longitude and the stars or whatever they were using worked.
Amazing.
This is the story of the Lyttleton time ball. I'm telling you, you
Amazing.
live there. Now I'm educating you.
Thank you. I'd love to go from halfway across the world to learn about this.
My personal theory is that the time ball is part of the magic of Lyttleton and all the creative people that are there.
Okay.
And I don't know if the time ball has appeared in a song yet.
That is a great question. I do not know the answer,
you
but
don't
I
use
can
it,
do some research.
Do some research because
Yeah.
I'm going to write a song about the little
Yeah.
time ball if it hasn't been done
Great.
yet. There's a statue of a dog there.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
This dog would live next door to the time ball, and like 2 minutes before 1 every day, he would run over there and start barking.
Oh.
So the guy didn't mess up, and then they would drop the ball, and he would be quiet.
You're an amazing resource. Yeah,
Well,
that's so good.
Let me know if you have any more questions about your hometown.
So good.
All right, so you started to get into this a little bit. I want to talk about your songwriting process.
Sure.
Is there a standard way your songs are coming together? Do you try to set aside a specific time? Are you working with the acoustic guitar? Is there a common way this is happening?
Yeah, I think so. I think I have to set aside, I definitely have to block off time and I'd love to say that I'm just feeling creative at all times and I just pick up the guitar and just, drop something down. But I think generally the way that I write is once I'm a very deadline based person. So I need to have something that I'm writing for. So, which is a record, which I've often left until the last minute. And then I'm like, oh my God, I've got to write a whole record with the songs, So I sit down. I generally would just start by sitting down with a guitar and, sometimes it's lyrics. Sometimes I've got, stuff that I've jotted down, as
Lyric
we do.
ideas.
Lyric ideas just in notebooks and stuff. And sometimes it's the other way, sometimes I'll just come up with something on the guitar that I like the feeling of and I'll see what sounds nice with
Right.
that. So it's either that way on the process side of things. Yeah.
So the ideas might arrive in the form of a chord progression or in the form of a lyric that might bring you to something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do melodies come in? Maybe words come with melodies sometimes to you?
Often. Yeah, often. It's a sort of funny thing I've kind of worked out. And I feel like, I hope that I've gotten better and definitely faster over the years at editing, and that I know when to start editing and when not, in that process where you're kind of channeling from wherever they come from.
Yes.
You're channeling the time ball. They come, of course. They're obvious. That's why we live in Lyttleton.
Yes.
So that process, of just kind of letting whatever in and just kind of stream of consciousness side of things, definitely not editing or judging then, but quickly being able to hear or feel if there's a line or a kind of a vein. I think of it as like a little vein, and then and you're like, okay, there's something there. I'll follow that. If I'm onto something, I have to stick with it.
Yeah.
So I try and write in kind of blocks where I'll You know, I might have a few songs on the go at a time and just go back and forward between them, or But the other thing that I find is that I have to keep, when I'm in that kind of writing block or process or whatever, I have to basically just keep turning up to my guitar, and you know what it's like some days you'll play and it'll just be, there's just nothing there, you know, and it's, or it's just all scraps or junk or whatever, but I definitely always get to something, and I think that's just by virtue of continuing to show up each day to it, you know,
So you are working on multiple songs at the same time?
Yeah, usually, yeah.
Is there at some point when you might bring your songs to someone else to get feedback, or are you trusting yourself through this process? You kind of hinted that you've gotten better at this, of recognizing what's good.
I still mostly will fully form a song before I take it anywhere. Or so my producer Josh Logan, who I worked with very closely over the past few years, in the last few records, I will take ideas to him, but I like to have as much as I can put into it. Like I'll usually take something to him when I'm stuck on something to say, and he's quite brilliant, you know, he'll always come back with something that's like, oh, you know, flip that or whatever, or, you know, let's change that key, or so that's probably the extent of my sharing. Like I'm very, I don't know, it's sort of quite a private process in a way, you know, and it's a very, you know, it's a very vulnerable thing, as it has to be, you know. But it's so it's always I'm always most nervous, you know, to play it to Josh than I could play it to 5,000 people, no problem. But
it's interesting.
It's funny, huh?
Yeah. It sounds like you've been describing a very like intuitive process, like maybe unconscious way. Maybe that's why
for sure
you don't want to bring something out until you've gotten to some end point. Is that right?
Yeah, that'll be right. Yeah, for sure.
And what about playing them as part of your live sets? Are you doing this before you've recorded the songs generally, or after, or or sometimes you get feedback from performing live that makes you change a song? For
sure, yeah. Sometimes I've written and recorded a record before I've, you know, taken it on the road, but sometimes I'm in the fortunate position that I can road test them, and especially if I'm touring with the band, then you have the time and the kind of the ability to shape them in a maybe slightly different way than you'd imagine them first, or whatever. But sometimes it works out like that, and sometimes not.
So you can just get a sense as you're playing with the band, not necessarily from audience reaction, but just something tells you that something about the production or the song might need
I think it's
to change.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, like when you're in the studio, you're often on quite a, you know, you're on a timeline, and everyone's, you know, you sort of extreme focus, and so you kind of don't have this endless time that you would have if you're touring and, you know, playing it over and over.
Right.
And, you know, when you're in the studio, you don't want to burn people out by playing something 70 times. Right. You know, you want to get it nice and you want to get it fresh with good energy in it and things.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I've read in interviews with you that you really don't like to talk about the meanings of your songs, the specific or the stories behind them. But
sometimes, some songs.
Well, tell us what your feelings are on that.
Yeah, I'm aware that it can sound a bit pretentious or something, that I'm not super interested in discussing the actual my meaning for a lot of the songs, but it comes from a very true place of as a music fan and as a listener, and like my favorite songs. I think the reason that I love them so much is because I put myself in the story. You know, it means something to me.
Yes.
And I put my own spin on it. It makes me feel a certain way. But I've, you know, had times, you know, with a song that I've really connected with, that I love, that I've kind of taken it to mean X, Y, Z, and then you find out, you know, this sort of explicit meaning from the writer.
Yes.
Yeah, and then it really shifts it, and I genuinely think that people can connect more when they don't know exactly what it's about. Well, you know, sometimes I'll preface things in shows with, you know, how I was feeling or a story, or sometimes I do talk about what they're about, you know, song to song, but generally I think too, because a lot of my lyric writing is is unconscious, you know, so
Right.
there's some quite, you know, there's some really dark stuff in the lyrics. And so, you know, sometimes the odd time you get someone, you know, after a show just come up to you and be like, are you okay? And it's like, look, you know, that's my outlet, you know,
Yes.
it's fine. Yeah. So I hopefully it doesn't sound too, I don't know, too pretentious or something. Not
I think it sounds just fine. We're going to talk about it a little more.
Yeah.
Do you think at all about how much of the story to put into the song with this in mind? There's kind of a balance to be struck when trying to connect with your listener, right? Between being specific enough with the imagery to allow the listener to build a story and giving them too much so that the story is right there.
It's all told, yeah.
So do you think about that when you're writing, trying to find that, or is it more of just an unconscious way they come out?
I think mostly it's pretty unconscious. Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes they are, you know, sometimes it is like an, you know, pretty explicit story and you know, it's obvious to people what it's about, but other times, yeah, it's more unconscious and who knows? Who knows what it's about? Sometimes I don't know, you know, the odd
Well,
time.
that's what I was going to get to. Are you wary of maybe overthinking the songs yourself, of trying to think, oh, this is what I'm writing about? Is that something you try and step back from?
Yeah, I think that I've probably found that the songs that connect to other ones in the writing process are the ones that I don't. It's not like I sit down and I'm like, I'm going to write a song about this experience today, you know, like I just sit and if like I think the experiences they're all just there, you know, kind of floating around or rattling around, I don't know, you know, in your kind of subconscious, and they kind of come out and show themselves in different ways or something, you know, with different colors or different feelings or different, you know, sometimes it'll just be a line and sometimes, you know, you'll have multiple experiences just kind of come into one song. So it's like, you know, the second half of the chorus is about this, but the verses really came from this time. So it's sort of, it's a very, I don't want to say random, but it kind of is a little in some ways.
It may sound random, but there's a magic there that's making it happen. I think.
Yeah.
You have a lot of devoted audience members who think you're doing this just right. So I wouldn't overthink it too much.
Yeah.
Let's make you nervous and talk about a couple of songs anyway.
Sure.
Title cut from your latest record, Sabotage. This is a cool word, but what I notice on this recording is that it is a word with great singability, at least for someone with your vocal skills. Is this something you're aware of as you compose songs, the way the sounds of the words that you're singing, and maybe you're picking certain...
I do. Yeah, I do. I think because, the sound of the word changes I guess, like the color and the feeling of it. So yeah, I do. And there are certain songs, you know, that really feel really nice to sing. Yeah. And you're right, Sabotage is one of those kind of words, you know. And I think that, like, calling the record that, you know, whenever you're putting out a record, you just agonize, of course, over what to call it, you know, and then you inevitably come back to the very first thing, you know, that you thought of. And I think, yes, Sabotage it just means a lot of different things to different people, you know.
Was that the first song you wrote for the record, do you think?
God, that's a great question. I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Let's say that it is.
Sure, yeah.
Makes for a better story.
Sabotage was the first song.
Thank you.
I know that I hurt you. Yeah, I know I did you wrong. I cut into your heart with every note of every song. Sabotage. So real, sabotage, when you know how it feels, sabotage everything that you got, sabotage with intention I did not.
How about the song Little Sadness? I think this is a great one. I have heard you say you like sad songs, like listening to them.
I do.
You write a lot of them. Mm-hmm. In this song, you kind of remind us that sadness is a part of life, an important part of life, right? Mm-hmm. There is no light without the darkness kind of message. With this one in mind, maybe talk about how you feel about sad songs, their place in the world, why maybe you feel drawn to them.
Yeah. I love your, I love the angle of like not asking about the songs, but talking about them. It's brilliant. It's very, very clever. Anyone that knows me, or maybe has met me will probably gather that I'm a pretty happy person, like I'm
picking up on that.
I'm pretty glass half full and I'm pretty optimistic. And yeah, I definitely, I get down and and I do feel sadness very deeply at times. And, sometimes it's from, experiences, or sometimes it's just it's just what's in the air, but I think that is, like as the song kind of talks about, I honestly think that it's a vital thing because it helps you sort of understand. It's like the depth of feeling. I think if you never had a bad time, or life was just peachy the whole time, you really never get. There's kind of no scale,
Right.
So like you don't feel the highs are not as high if you don't. I'm not saying that we should all be searching, everyone needs like really low times all the time, but it definitely gives you like a reference point for appreciation.
Yes.
and understanding that when it's good, it's, just to really, just to really sit in it and appreciate it. And yeah.
I'm going to read you back some of your own lyrics.
Oh, God.
I was really drawn to this. A little bit of struggle is good for the soul. Scar your hands digging out of the hole. Scars remind you to stand up tall. Scars remind you you're here at all.
That's a great lyric.
I'm telling you must have been pretty happy when you came up with that one.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Yeah.
But that kind of encapsulates what you were saying. It's a great song.
Oh, thank you.
A little bit of struggle is good for the soul. Scar your hands digging out of the hole. Scars remind you to stand up tall. Scars remind you you're here at all. Lose your mind, your money, your time. Lose your way, get left behind. Oh, helps me stand, helps me sing. A little bit of sadness is a vital thing. You don't know what you can see. A little bit of sadness walking with me.
I don't think it's a sad song. I get this vibe from a few others on this record. They're not really downers, sadness for their own sake. Instead, I hear them maybe as realistic and hopeful.
Yes, yeah.
For example, in 5432, another one of your songs on this record, you could hear it as a worrisome song about losing someone or losing something. Instead, I kind of hear it as a love song and appreciation for what one has, right? So I know you're not going to tell me what this one about, but would you feel that some of these songs are maybe hopeful and not sad? Or
I love that. I love that you picked that up. Yeah. It really, they really are. I think, there's always a hopeful element, I think, to them for sure. And I think that, thinking back to those little sadness lyrics, it's, and maybe that's like some of my experiences through my life. I've had an absolute roller coaster of a life, which I, at the time and the times when you're suffering, obviously it's awful and you never wish suffering upon anyone,
right.
But it turns you into who you are, and it means that I have, first of all, as a songwriter, it means that I have a massive, just like constant kind of depth.
You can reach in the bag.
I can reach on in any time to anywhere,
Yes.
So I feel grateful for that, but also I think that it helps you to understand humans. I think that, and understanding people and what makes them tick, and just that thing of, you can kind of forget that, you kind of just kind of traipsing through your day-to-day life and, your domestic stuff and the stuff that drives you mental about just, tax or just, like
children,
the case of, absolutely. That's a whole nother podcast, but no, but, it really, having dark times and dark experiences helps you understand other people and just
Yeah.
have empathy, you know. And I think that for me anyway is really a crucial thing for a songwriter is understanding that, you know, people might present as one thing, but inside they're really battling, you know,
Yeah.
or they're really struggling.
Right.
So, I think that having an experience of that and also understanding that in other people, I mean, hopefully it just makes you a better person, but I think as a songwriter, it's a really helpful thing for me. Yeah.
You just gotta turn up each day. Sometimes it's mud, sometimes it's hay. The sap is seeping through, standing there up on the stage, trying hard to hold your rage, sliding into the rear view. 5, 4, 3, 2, love, is that you again? 5, 4, 3, 2, love, babe, is that you again? 5, 4, 3, 2, love, son, is that you again?
You play some drums on this record.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I love some of these drum sounds. They really give some of these cuts like a great bounce.
Cool.
That's my official technical term
Also,
for
that
it.
sounds very technical.
Like
yeah.
off or down.
Yeah.
Really great swing on
Cool.
this song. Is
Yeah.
that you playing the drums?
It's not. And unfortunately, the annoying thing is I do play drums on I play drums on Sabotage and something else.
Mm-hmm. But you know what I'm talking about in the way the drums really give it that bounce.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, that's Josh playing the drums, so he played every other instrument. Annoyingly, he's one of those,
Yeah.
right?
I know some of those people.
I know.
Yes.
And even worse, he's like really great guy. It's the pits. Yeah.
That song, Off or Down, am I allowed to say that I think it's about the business side of the music world?
Yeah, it kind of is, but it's actually, funnily enough, it's not about me, that one. It's a young songwriter that I was sort of mentoring, and I'm definitely not an advice giver, you know. I think everyone has their own journey, and
Yes.
you know, you can help them for sure, but I think I was just I was sort of trying to encourage, or something like that. That's where that came from.
It's coming round to your turn. It's coming round to your time in the sun. There's an offer down, offer on the table. There's an offer down, take it if you're able. Offer down, offer on the table. Offer down, take it if you're able.
You tour a lot. You
Yeah.
play a lot of shows. Talk about what you like about playing live and touring, and maybe what you're trying to bring to your audiences.
Yeah, you're right. I do. I love touring, and I have done it a lot. Like, I guess the past 15 years, that's basically been my life. But I think, honestly, playing to audiences, it gives me energy. So it's like, it really fills me up. But any kind of audience, honestly, like a
Hotel room with 3 people at 1:30 in the morning. We're going to be doing a little bit of that this week.
I was just going to say, absolutely, yeah. You know, it could be 10 people or it could be thousands, whatever I think that connecting with an audience and like sharing that, it sounds really kind of woo-woo, but the energy
We'll allow the woo on this.
Yeah. It's like, I feel like performing live is this amazing, unique, and it's in the moment and then it's gone, but it's just like an energy transfer from, it's not like, I don't feel like it's like me standing on stage playing a song to people, you know, and seeing if they like it or not.
Something bigger than that.
Totally. It's like this, I don't know, it's kind of a magical thing where you are obviously giving a lot, but your audience is giving it back. And so it's this, it's a really kind of circular energy kind of a vibe. And I think that and I guess that's why people go to shows, to get that buzz as well. And I think that's kind of, with all the industry kind of, I don't want to say downturn, but there's a lot of negative chat about the way that, how hard it is for artists and all those things. And I agree with that, but I also think that for me, I just keep remembering that people will always need live music.
Yes.
And so I'm lucky that I love it. I love performing and I love connecting with audiences. So that's what has kept me on the road. And and I hope to be able to do it forever, until I can't
That's great.
Until I can't catch a plane anymore, I mean, my tours now are a lot, I used to be on the road for 2.5 months at a time or whatever, but now we've got, I've got a lot of young kids, and so it's shifted in that I don't want to be away for
2 months
for 2 months at a time, so my tours are have to be kind of more thoughtful now rather than sloggy, but I still love it, and I feel lucky that I do love it, because I think if you didn't love the performing and the touring, it would be really hard. I
imagine.
So
you've toured the U.S., Canada, Europe, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But you do tour a lot in New Zealand.
I do, yeah.
Would you say it is harder to build a touring life in New Zealand to make a tour worthwhile, having enough places where there are audiences for you? I know a lot of artists who have left New Zealand and Australia because they find it's much easier to make a go of it.
I mean, I guess that's why I used to tour overseas a lot. I've toured in the past, basically since COVID, I have done very little international touring, but I mean, that's one of the reasons that people go overseas basically. But for me, I'm lucky in that I can play, I take my band on big runs, or I can just tour solo, which means that I can go to regional places, and there are a lot of regional touring opportunities in New Zealand, but the thing is, like you say, it's so small, and you don't want to be visiting more than once or twice a year, kind of a thing.
But you've done a good job building audience in New Zealand, from what I could tell. I've done. I guess I've just been going back to all those places for a long time, and so I've got a solid and just really loyal audience in a lot of places there. So I feel really grateful for that. Honestly, I don't take it for granted. Well, that's great. Well, I think I've taken up about enough of your time. I think we've got this time actually perfectly, considering your next appointment.
Great.
So thank you very much for taking this time.
My absolute pleasure.
We know we have to schedule our rest today so we can stay up with all these old folkies here.
I know, right?
Somehow managed to stay up till 4 a.m. I don't know how they do it.
I don't know either. Absolutely crazy.
But thanks, Mel.
Thanks great. For all your very thoughtful questions. I really appreciate it.
I'm gonna tell you what. I'm gonna tell you